Overwatch has to be my favorite competitive multiplayer game of all time. Well, maybe not of all time, but at least thus to date. The reason I say thus to date is because I believe that Blizzard can produce something that's even better. Likewise, when I think about what the future holds for the franchise, I can't help but ponder upon certain concepts that I hope come to fruition. So this video is essentially going to be my wish list for Blizzard, a wish list to them for whatever could come to the franchise in the future. This includes the current Overwatch, the highly rumored PvE content or story mode, and a potential sequel. Keep in mind that this sequel is not to be mistaken for the PvE content that's supposedly going to be revealed at BlizzCon 2019. Some of you may want to call this potential sequel Overwatch 2, but honestly, who knows what its title will be. Also, in its current state, not much about this game has been speculated, so I see it as an empty canvas, and I'd like to be one of the first to share their ideas on it, even if it's not released until, I don't know, 2025? Or maybe even never. Never. Oh no, I was just trying to say that Blizzard just hasn't really announced Hey! I'm just trying to say that no details about this game have even been hinted at from Blizzard, but yes, we can sure hope that it'll be released. Anyway, about these ideas that I'm going to share, I think the first main two that I'll mention have a slight chance of becoming implemented into the franchise sometime soon. However, for the most part, this video is going to be geared towards the potential fully fledged sequel during the era of the next-gen consoles. Alright, so dear Jeff Kaplan. Yes, first, I would really like to see a better way to get throwers to start behaving. This is because I'm sick and tired of having all of my chances of winning squandered by countless amounts of immature people who won't properly play the game. We need to be more strict on them, but what more can we do on reporting? Well, Blizzard could spend large amounts of money on an enormous staff whose sole purpose would be to sit behind their computers and verify the thousands of reports being sent in each day. I mean, this idea could work, but it would be a great hassle, which is why I have been thinking about an alternative solution. Also, this idea may even sound a bit ridiculous or far-fetched because it has never been done before in a video game. Though, Call of Duty did release something along the same lines called Alexa's Skill. So, here it is. My suggestion for Blizzard to help diminish the act of throwing is to add an artificial intelligence moderator to each competitive game. That's right, an artificial intelligence moderator. Essentially, this means that in addition to the standard 6 players on each team, there would be a robot behind the scenes of ranked matches, watching over each player's every move. Its sole purpose would be to accurately identify whether or not a player is throwing and then punish them accordingly. If you take a look at modern technology, AI security cameras are now able to recognize humans, vehicles, objects, and even events. I believe a hard thrower's actions can be detected in a similar way. Of course, it would have to be incredibly accurate for it to work, because I wouldn't want to be banned for accidentally falling off a ledge. So, a big question to answer would be, how would this even work? Well, this moderator should be able to determine whether or not someone is actually throwing based off of several key pieces of information which its neural network is wired to look for. It would search for these pieces of information and perform algorithms with them in order to determine conclusions. For example, some of these determinate bits of information could take form as certain recognizable events, such as players not leaving spawn, the recurrence of a player's suicide, or even the recurrence of May walls blocking off teammates. This is just an idea, and once again, I know that it may seem a bit far-fetched, but I truly do believe that it can fix many problems if it is done correctly and with minimal errors. Also, another thought on this idea is that I would love to see them assign one of the non-playable character roles to this moderator. This would be a great opportunity to give one of Overwatch's non-playable characters their chance to shine as the competitive moderator. Imagine having someone such as Echo or even Athena be given this role. In fact, Athena already is an AI bot, so it would make perfect sense for her to be the Overwatch competitive moderator. Now, I would like to know if any of you have an opinion on this. Could there be potential dangers of having this thing behind the scenes of each game? Is our modern technology even capable of having it be accurate enough? Could it be capable? Now that we're already on the topic of AI coming to the future of Overwatch, I would like to mention another way in which the technology could be useful. First, I want you all to watch a piece of a video that I found.
So, we have our five humans. And so now we need an opponent. We need the OpenAI 5. That's it. And we're ready to start the show match.
Here, a few artificial intelligence bots play against some of the best players in Dota 2. The main reason I wanted to show all of you that video was because I felt the need to point out that this technology certainly exists. I also do know that there already are AI bots in Overwatch, but they're unexceptional. They play at a mediocre level, even when their difficulties are set to hard, which is why I think this really needs to change. It may be a bit of a programming challenge, but I think if efforts are seriously put into it, bots that are better than what we have currently could be created. So now, let's talk about another big problem in competitive. This issue is the fact that there is a huge disadvantage amongst your team once someone disconnects, whether it be out of the act of throwing or due to a legitimate connection interruption. To compensate for this, I believe that we should replace the players who leave the game with an artificial intelligence version of the hero which they had last chosen. Now, the only twist to the system is that I think it would be fair for there to still be somewhat of a disadvantage amongst the team whose teammate is disconnected. In other words, having someone leave a team should still punish that team to an extent, just not to the extent of the game being 5v6. In order to create an AI substitution system which satisfies this condition, I believe that these substitute bots should rank a fixed distance in SR below the player who left. To get a better visualization of this, first imagine the entire span of the ranked number system laid out on a graph. In reality, these increments should go up one by one. However, in order to conserve screen space, what you see are increments of 250. Next, let us remind ourselves of what an AI generation is. When people create AI networks, specifically in the category of machine learning, these systems must be trained by methods of trial and error where an end goal is set. For each generation, multiple sessions are ran, knowing that one of these bots will figure out a way to score higher than the others. This prodigy bot, who scores the best of those sessions, is then used as the parent of the next generation. Chronologically speaking, as these generations progress, the bot then becomes smarter and smarter. Now, suppose that by generation 100, one of these Overwatch AI bots would rank on average with the top percent of players. We would then assign this generation 100 bot to roughly rank 4750. Next, we would assign the first generation bot to rank 0, and then the rest of the generations would fill the rest of the ranks according to where they individually land. However, as I mentioned earlier, I believe there should still be some sort of consequence after the substitution is made. So I would like to see this system set up in a way where that whenever a team loses a player, an AI bot which is a fixed rank below that player's rank, suppose by 750 SR, would fill in this spot, rather than it being given to an AI bot which is on par with that player's rank. Under this system, some of the more advanced bots wouldn't be given an opportunity to fill in because there wouldn't exist high enough ranks. Also, because negative generation bots don't exist, some of the lower ranks would have to share the same level AI, which I think is no big deal. Though I do have one concern about this idea. We would need to make sure that these replacements are set up so that this updated probability of winning once a substitution is made is the same difference in percentage in every situation amongst all teams and amongst all ranks. Usually, if two teams are equally ranked, the probability of winning for either team should be 50%. However, if a replacement is made and 750 SR is lost from, suppose, Team A, Team A's average rank would go down along with its chances of winning. Just for comparison, you can see how much worse it is when you lose an entire player from your team. Anyway, these substitutions should ideally drop the chances of winning by a fixed amount in all situations according to the formula. But in reality, there could be many other factors which skew these probabilities. The truth is that I'm not an expert on ELO statistics, which is why I would like for others to help perfect this idea even further. Next, I would like to shift the focus of this video specifically towards what the next generation of consoles will be able to provide us with. What's happening is that I keep thinking about how the powerful graphics of the next Xbox and PlayStation could significantly benefit the potential sequel. Of course, PCs can already compute all this crazy stuff that I'm about to mention, but once this power comes to consoles, the average household will then have a machine capable of performing these computations, and that's when the time will be right to add these features. Okay, so first off, if this game is ever released somewhere out in the distant future, I think that it'll be essential for Blizzard to add RTX lighting. RTX should be the standard system of lighting in high-end video games during the era of the next generation of consoles, and with ray tracing, an endless possibility of improvements to the game could be made. In order for me to show you this, let's take a look at a few lighting situations in Overwatch and try to point out some areas in which they could be corrected. By the way, these clips that I'm about to show are coming from a PlayStation 4. Alright, so here you can see Reaper's shadow grow and shrink in relation to his distance from the green light source. I was actually quite impressed after analyzing this scenario because I honestly couldn't spot many errors in the lighting system. However, as I looked in other areas, I noticed a sort of selective shadow casting done by the light sources. Here, you can easily see Reaper's shadow as he walks past the bluish light source, but as he approaches the yellowish light source, no shadow at all is cast. Under a realistic lighting system, every light source should cast a unique shadow on every other object that passes by it. Another example of this sort of selective shadow casting is the fact that relative to you, your character won't cast a shadow in a first-person viewpoint. Here you can see that Lucio casts his own shadow, but I can't see my own shadow. At least not until I put my shield up and enter a third-person point of view. Next up, let's take a look at what happens after I throw this Moira orb in a dark alleyway of King's Row. As you can see, the light coming off the orb creates a glow on Hammond and the surrounding walls, but it does not cast any sort of shadow on the ground even though there undoubtedly should be one due to Hammond's blockage in the light's trajectory. In this example, these light orbs don't just not create shadows, they also don't create moving shadows. If a lighting system were to be fully dynamic, moving light sources would create moving shadows. Plus, with RTX, these moving shadows would have proper spherical area light. Now, shadows aren't the only aspect to lighting of which RTX can correct in Overwatch because it also allows for materials to have visually stunning, realistic reflective properties. So imagine characters such as Genji, Brigitte, or even Reinhardt having visually stunning, highly reflective, metallic armor under this new system of lighting. Something like this would look amazing. Now, aside from a spectacular lighting system, some major graphical improvements, which I think are a must for Blizzard, include other updates to the in-game physics. I think this is almost inevitable because if you pay close attention to the current Overwatch, you can see just how much physics they actually incorporated into the game. I'm sure they would have loved to add more, but couldn't because they were restricted due to the limits in processing power. I believe that the next generation of consoles will be able to much better simulate things such as fluids, gases, and clothing. I also think that there are many possible ways in which these improvements in physics would not only make the game more visually pleasing, but also change how it actually plays. For example, I would like to see flowing water incorporated into Overwatch a bit more than it is now. Though, keep in mind there shouldn't be too much water because the game might get a bad review from IGN. This could be done by adding things such as waterfalls, more fountains, or even a pit filled with deadly sharks. I know plenty of bodies of water are already in the game that you can fall into, but there's little to no interaction with fluids in the game. When you jump into the water, the waves just don't ripple around, and it just feels like the game is a little bit dry without any moving, interactive bodies of water. Also, this doesn't necessarily mean I want swimming incorporated into the game mechanics, because I usually dislike being slowed down by water in video games. I just think that the proper time to add fluid physics is certainly coming because I've noticed that water is finally starting to look more and more visually stunning in modern games. Now, imagine there potentially even being a hero who uses water as part of one of their main abilities. Wouldn't it be cool to see a Splatoon-like hero who shoots out water or some other detrimental, perhaps acidic fluid? I just wonder how good this would look and play if it is done right. In fact, there already is a hero who kind of does this. Torbjorn. Just imagine how Torbjorn's molten core would look with ultra-realistic viscous fluid physics. We would then be able to see the lava actually seep around corners and drip off ledges instead of what it does now. Earlier, I had mentioned improvement in fabric physics because this would allow materials to bounce around more realistically as you run or fall. The cloth physics in the current Overwatch really aren't bad at all, but who wouldn't want to see hair or even capes bounce around under an enhanced system? I had also mentioned improvements in gases because this could give us better visuals in other small details of the game, such as the smoke coming off of Soldier's Helix rocket, the black mist that is left behind after Reaper uses his Wraith, or even the leaks of gas coming out of these tanks. Fire is technically a gas in most cases, so this leads me to think about how higher quality fire would perfect the game even further. This could give us better visualizations in things such as the flames that engulf opponents after Ash's dynamite explodes on them, or even the traveling flame of Reinhardt's fire strike. Also, wouldn't a new hero such as a pyromancer who spews out ultra-realistic fire be insane? I keep thinking about the potential weaponry and how drastically it could expand with these updates in graphics. Geez, it's like I'm just listing all of the states of matter. So I feel like I shouldn't disclude a little clip of all of the plasmas I can think of in Overwatch. Maybe what we need is an Omnic that can avatar bend all 4 states of matter. Angyata? Overall, I think that this collection of improvements, along with the better textures and polygon counts, would significantly increase the visual aesthetics of the game and enhance the gameplay in ways unimaginable to a previous gaming generation. Yes, I do know how computationally expensive they can be, but I'd really like to see as many of them as possible come to fruition. Last but not least, I just wanted to give my thoughts on characters and maps returning to this potential sequel. I believe this game shouldn't overwhelm players with too many maps and heroes, but it also shouldn't feel bland to begin with, so there needs to be balance. In my opinion, a good starting point would include somewhere around 15 maps at least, and around 24, 27, or 30 heroes. I would want the starting amount of heroes to be divisible by 3 to give us an even amount of tank damage and healing characters. I also believe I once heard Jeff Kaplan mention that Blizzard was even considering retiring a few heroes, such as Reinhardt, because in the Overwatch timeline, he is just getting too old. In my opinion, I don't want any heroes gone in the current Overwatch, but I think that by the time the sequel of Overwatch comes, it would then be a perfect time to retire them. However, to not completely rid some of our beloved characters, it may be a good idea to introduce descendants of these retired heroes who have similar abilities, yet are unique in their own ways. For example, if Reinhardt is retired in the sequel of Overwatch, perhaps another Crusader could fulfill the emptiness that would be left behind if there were no longer an armored, righteous tank like Reinhardt himself. Overall, if I had a choice, I would like to see the minority of maps return and the minority of heroes return. The rest of the heroes in the game should consist of some who are completely new, and others who are descendants, or closely related. Alright, that just about wraps it up. I finally got everything I wanted to say about the future of Overwatch off my chest. It feels good. There was obviously a lot I had to say, and I really hope that my ideas are one day considered. Like I said earlier, this video is a wish list, and I don't expect the entire list to come true. I just think that the time is due for new ideas to be brought to the community, even if they come off as drastic to some. Thank you all for watching this video. I'm really looking forward to everyone's reactions, and any support to my channel or this video would be greatly appreciated. Thanks once again, especially if you made it to the end. Peace.